Good afternoon, YouTubers, and welcome once again to the mess hall here at Dr. Jet Laboratories. I took a break from building this because I wanted to relay some information to Wayne. Now that Wayne is the primary purpose for me going into all this detail about building this. I want to see Wayne succeed, and the step I just went through is a step that I know Wayne will not like. It's an annoying, tedious, fiddlesome kind of task, and I know he doesn't like doing those kinds of tasks, and I can't blame him. It's a pain in the ass. It really is a pain in the ass, but you know what? Sometimes, Wayne, you just gotta do it. So here's what I want to talk about. I have the motor installed, and lo and behold, I have the speed control installed, and I have all my cooling hoses hooked up, and why, there's flow through there. As much flow as when I had it on the bench. You got to check that because there's some things going on. So anyway, here's how it went in there. And I'm going to use this new motor, which is an 1112 1.5 Delta. That's a screamer. And this other speed control to show you how I did it. What a freaking pain in the ass. First thing, hook up the motor and make sure the wires are right. Hook it up to a battery and make sure it's turning the correct direction. The last thing you want to do is go through all these hoops and nonsense and then find out you got to take the motor out and switch the wires. So double check it a couple of times before you put it in. Trust me, you only want to do this once. So I put the motor together, and here's the way I laid it out. I'm going to have my cooling coming in and into this side, and then from this side it's going to come around and go to this part of the motor, and then from this part of the motor it's going to go out. And we'll look at that closer in a minute. So I hooked up a lead from here and left it about this long. I'm going to actually have an aluminum tube coming down here, all epoxy into place, and this will just plug into an aluminum tube that'll be, epoxied in here so it'll look real nice and be real rock solid. It'll be ironcladded. There's a little hat tip for you, Big B. So back to this. Get your motor wires hooked up, get your cooling in, get this cooling in, and actually hook it up to the motor. And what I did is I laid things out here and said, okay, this is going to fit here, this is going to fit here, okay. And so the hose is going to come under and around. Think about all that. And that's the way you wanted the hose to come under and around to here. And then I slipped this in, and before it was in all the way, I got a little stick so I could push it up in there, and then I'm pushing it as I'm moving the motor, and the motor will kind of move it a little bit, and then you got to reach in and get it off to one side, and then you got to make sure this thing, fiddle, 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 and pretty soon you can get the coupler past the motor mount and get the motor in. Oh man, what a pain in the ass that was. But once it's in there, it's totally bitching, because check this out now. This is you can buy it off of eBay, pre-made parallel coupler. And so I just put a regular XT60 connector here on my speed control. And then with this in there, I can shove this up into here, be able to plug into the batteries as they're going in. I have batteries in here right now, and the plugs for the battery will be back here, and you can tuck this in and out of the way, and nothing is near spinning parts. And this is what it's going to look like when the battery is hooked up. All your electronics, boom, up here. out of the way of spinning parts. I'm going to do something other than a piece of tape to deal with these receiver wires, but I'll just put some clips or something in there, nothing over the top. And so there you go. So I'm waiting on some 5/32 aluminum tube, bendable aluminum tube. And once I get that, I'll put this in, make my bracket for my water cooler, and away we go. We're going to be ready to go. And I was thinking about this too. I like the look of this through hull for the bellows here, in that it protrudes just, the length of the bevel on the end of it. And it just looks, I think it looks really cool. And I'd hate to just paint that thing when I paint the whole boat. So I'm thinking of gluing that in with goop rather than glassing it in. And if I glue it in with goop, when it's time for this thing to go in the paint shop, everything that isn't, that is bolted on will be removed. So everything will be out of here, and I could dissolve the goop with lacquer thinner or acetone or something. I could dissolve the goop, knock that thing out, clean it up, and then epoxy it in when the thing is painted. So let's talk one last thing about balance. So this is it, all hooked up, ready to go without the heavy wings on the back. And it balances not quite where the factory would have it up here, but I'm right, there. So I'm a half an inch back. With this big, huge turn fin and modern stuff, I'm not the least bit worried. That's going to be a good starting point. Who knows? May want to move the CG back even further. Remember, in a rigger's got the CG way back from the back of the sponson, and it relies on a big, huge turn fin. So there you are, Wayne. It's fiddlesome, but it can be done. You're going to need a stick. This is the same stick I use for pushing my batteries in place, too. So, speaking of sticks, Wayne, this is for you. These hulls are joined wet in wet, which means there's the top mold and the bottom mold, and they put the gel coat down, and then they put the fiberglass down, and they don't let them cook off, then attach them. They attach them while the epoxy is still wet, and they leave a lip on each side. And sometimes in these far edges, the lips will hang down and you get some cloth hanging off the edge. And I've had to do this in several locations here, up in here, and one location here is put some sandpaper on a stick, and you can go in and sand off those edges, because those edges will get you. And they happen at corners, like where this meets that on the inside. And so keep your eye out for that, and sand back anything. Just glue some sandpaper on there and get in there and get that stuff. It knocks off real easy. So there you go. Okay, Wayne, until next time, jet out.